Okay, my jelly.
I just love your Kentucky jelly.
It's KY jelly.
Right. However, it has a rather neutral taste on toast. Gilbert's kind of weird. So you see, he's that kind. Now, I'm illustrating the difference in the humor. Now, Gilbert wasn't exactly disc jockey humor. Disc jockey humor is more like if someone's not bleeding, what's funny? And so the producer of our sister station, WEBN, he told me one day, we're going to start doing call-outs like you do with Gilbert Darley. And I said, oh, cool. Their very first telephone call, they got a woman on the line, some young girl, in fact, on the line, and in fact, one of her first jobs out in the world. But they didn't tell her, they had her boss on the other line. And they got her to say some really nasty things about her boss and her place of employment and all that. Well, then they thought it was really funny. Guess what? Your boss is on the other line. And they put them on the air together, and she's mortified. A week later, she is fired. She sues the station. They settled for $35,000, complained to the FCC, fined $15,000. Bob came to me and said, Gary, our first phone call cost us $50,000. How do you do it? I go, I don't make anybody mad. So they moved that idiot forward. He became the manager of one of the other stations. So, you know, he did well too. So moving you forward isn't so bad. No Child Left Behind is not the only problem, though, I wanted to talk about. They have something called Everyday Math. Anybody up on that here? You can talk to me. You guys don't know about it? You're on the board? Good. I better tell you. I'm not an expert, but from what some people have told me, there's no drill because children are encouraged to find creative solutions to problems in math, and answers can be way off. Here, I got a sample question. I found this online. It says, if math were a color, it would be blank because blank. What? Okay, look at it like this. Look at it like this. Eventually, one of these kids is going to get a job at NASA, right? And we'll hear, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mars Mission 2031. Now let's begin the countdown. 10, 9, yellow. What the hell is going on in the school? What's next? Ish math?
Bobby, what's 2 and 2? Oh, 3-ish.
Right. Let me say it's not your fault. The problem we all know is legislators who often don't understand how children learn and then get nervous when polls go down, and they feel they have to come up with something significant in legislation to cut the hell out of your already bulimic budget. Is somewhere now on par with that one in Squatamalia. And the only relief you're ever going to get is if Johnson & Johnson comes out with a suppository shaped like Mitch McConnell's head. I was going to say the governor's name, but he's behind me here on it. And being behind me, I don't like that idea. Knowing he's a politician. You know who we need? There was one guy in politics. Now, he may not have had the right answer every time, but you just can't seem to get an answer anymore. But this guy always had an answer. And the media crucified him. The jackals went after him. I voted for it. Mostly I voted for him because I could do his voice. I could do Clinton's voice very well. I did him, in fact, incredible. I could go in a room somewhere and you wouldn't realize if it was Bill or not. But this guy, I had him down better. So my criteria for voting for the President of the United States was, whose voice can I do the best? And it was
Ross Perot. Always calling the way he saw.
You ask Ross a question.
Listen, Stinky, here's the deal. Teachers complain that kids learn to read, but they don't retain what they read. Not a problem. They can all grow up and be Fox News anchors. People worry that kids in other countries have surpassed us in educational excellence. Maybe, but can them kids dribble behind their backs? School dropout rates are another huge concern. On the other hand, there are plenty of students who should drop out and go to jail full time. Sex education is another concern. A lot of people say providing condoms to students is a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. They'll think it's homework and won't do it. Finally,
Hello, Ross. Hey, Joe.
in conclusion, my fellow Americans, there's one more than one way to skin a cat. Way number 15, crazy glue and a toothbrush. Thank you very much.
Another problem is that teachers often don't know what local standards are. I'm telling you this if you don't know. And these, because I did some interviews with people actually about this. Standards vary widely. A friend of mine who's a retired teacher told me about an interview he sat in on with several students and that's teachers actually. And the candidate looked very nervous. So the first questioner decided to throw out a little softball and be kind of funny. He said, okay, the first question is the world flat or round? And he said, I don't know how you folks feel about it, but I can teach it either way. They moved that idiot up. He's now the curator of the Creation Museum. Violence increasing in schools. I know you have to deal with that. Today we worry about gangs. Seems like every school has a student body made up of gangs, white gangs, black gangs, Hispanic gangs. I read about a school in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. All the Jewish kids got together and have a gang. They call them foreskin heads. I'm not happy with it either. Don't look at me like that. But discipline has to be maintained. And with the perimeters you're given, I don't envy you. You can't sentence them to the assistant principal's office for life. Somehow discipline has to be meaningful. Not like my mother. One time, she caught me in my room doing what she told me I would go blind for. As punishment, she locked me in my room for 3 hours. Nothing was solved, except I became a bit more ambidextrous. The punishment should fit the crime, but it shouldn't make it easier to commit. Speaking of crimes, I'd like to introduce you to a guy that, how about this hat, man? It's funny, I could talk like this and just be normal. You know, I learned to talk like the guy on the 6 o'clock news when I got into radio. And, but I can put this hat on, it takes me right back home to Water Valley, Mississippi. Like this right here. You know what makes me sick? I gotta cock it just right. You know what makes me so mad? I want to drop my pants, take a butter knife, spread alcohol over my butt cheeks, super glue my tongue to a fire hydrant, wait for a pack of wild pit bulls to come along and lick it off. As members of the school board, you constantly try to save money. I heard even just talking about assistant principals. You don't need a pinhead assistant principal. All they do is toss kids out of school, suspend them, punish them, and totally ruin their lives. Now, I know that sounds like a fun job. But you can eliminate that salary. Let me tell you something. Assistant principals help kids the same way a crocodile helps a baby wildebeest cross the Zambezi River. Move that idiot forward. Let me tell you this right off. I support you folks in the education community. I support my kids at school. Just last week, I went down to the cafe gymnatorium. I guess that's what the heck they call it. There's a parent-teachers conference. I find them very valuable. I know a lot of times after I meet my little boys' teachers, they always look at me and say, that explains a lot. A couple of them even cried. I guess they were just so glad I was there.
Another thing is y'all are dealing with today, I know you're probably going to have this come up at some point, you're dealing with homeschooling. My old lady wanted to look into that, but I